You're right now in the same room in the Ohio Statehouse as the 1802 Constitution, and the words that are set down in that document well over 200 years ago now, still the foundation of Ohio government today. They're the rules by which we choose to govern ourselves as a free people in a democratic state and a democratic nation.
The end of the Revolutionary War marked a great new chapter in American history. Having won independence from the British Crown, the former colonies now faced an important challenge to form a peaceful union and continue to build the United States.
The summer of 1787 was one of the most consequential moments in all of American history. Two really big things were going on. One was that in Philadelphia, the delegates to the Constitutional Convention were writing what later became the U.S. Constitution. Meanwhile, in New York, which was at that point the capital of the United States, the Congress was meeting to do its legislation, most importantly, the Northwest Ordinance, which was to determine how the vast area that the United States had acquired from Great Britain at the end of the Revolutionary War would be organized and settled, and how that government of that vast region would be set up.
Under this new government, it was really important that there be created a sense of ordered liberty, a sense that individual rights really mattered, but also that it had to be structured in a way that prevented chaos or anarchy, which is something that most people thought republics really were prone towards. So you had to balance the concerns about tyranny of government, but also concerns that there wouldn't be enough government.
And so Congress creates a new territory which consists of the states of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, and part of today Minnesota. So it's this huge territory that settlers are moving into. And so the big question is, how do you create states out of that?
Among the delegates who were gathered in New York at that time was a lawyer from Massachusetts by the name of Nathan Dane, who was a member of Congress representing Massachusetts, and he took a lead role in drafting what became the Northwest Ordinance of 1787.
During this period in time, Nathan Dane and other members of Congress quickly determined that once 60,000 people had moved to an area within the Northwest Territory, those settlers could petition the government to draft a constitution and become a state. The Northwest Ordinance would also need to cover the roles of government and individual liberties.
There is no part of American history you can understand without African American history. The struggle over freedom and decency and voting and suffrage, these are empowering narratives that are at the heart of the spirit of what it means for us to be American. So it's not all beautiful history with so many things that have been maybe erased or minimized in American history, but really best and more fully tell the American story.
Slavery was a contentious issue in the late 18th century. There were states in the North that had decided that they recognized the paradox of living in a land of freedom, but also a country that still had slaves. And so most northern states passed laws in the midst and after the Revolution to end slavery. In the South, laws are made that actually reinforce the rights of slaveholders to own slave property. And so at the national level, you have this debate that's sort of unfolding as early as the 1780s about what the future of slavery is going to be within the United States.
When Nathan Dane wrote the Northwest Ordinance, he left out any reference to slavery because he thought the southern states would object to it. However, when it came up for discussion and debate, he realized that there might be a chance to add it back in as an amendment. Somewhat to his surprise, it appears, the amendment passed unanimously, and that meant that forever after, slavery would be completely prohibited anywhere in the Northwest Territory.
The Northwest Ordinance remains to this day the first major anti-slavery legislation in American history. Article 6 of the Northwest Ordinance reads, "There shall be neither slavery nor involuntary servitude in the said territory, otherwise than in the punishment of crimes whereof the party shall have been duly convicted."
The Northwest Ordinance is the first federal law that abolished slavery. Obviously, there were a number of subsequent laws, including the 13th Amendment in the 1860s, which was copied from the Northwest Ordinance using identical language or almost identical language. The Northwest Ordinance set the precedent that ultimately, about 80 years later, ended with the actual abolition of slavery.